Hi everyone, my name is Carl and I'll be teaching you the hands-on to Figma part. So this is the recent page where all your recent designs will go to, and this is the search bar, and you can search all the design you have done. So for example, I type my Jatra and it will show up my previous designs work. So this is the community part where you can find all the plugins and all the templates by the community in Figma. So the next part is draft, where you can see all the unsaved file and unsaved design here. This is the team library where you can invite members and also to ask them collaborate with you with certain project. So this is the canvas, and the first thing you do when design the UI is by creating a frame. So from here you can see there's a lot of different preset frames like phone, tablet, desktop, watch, social medias, and community. So I draw a frame using the iPhone 11 Pro Max preset, and the first thing I want to do is put out a grid. By putting a grid can make all our design follow a grid pattern and looks more professional and cleaner. So now I have choose 10 pixel wide and a black grid. So now I'm going to save the grid so that I can reuse it on another frame instead of recreating it again. So here I create another frame and I'll use back my previous save grid pattern. So now let's go to the asset part. So from here you can save all the things inside like typography, colors, and grid, so and reuse it on another project. So you need to publish your asset. It will take a while to publish if the file is big, and after successfully published, you can open another tab to another new design and press the asset button and the little book icon here to enable the asset that you have just published. When you create a preset, and you can just directly select the grid that you have just published. So now I'm going to talk about the design tab, and starting with design tab is the alignment. So now I'm going to draw a rectangle first, and by using the different alignment setting like align left, you can see the thing snap to the left side, and align horizontal centers, align right, align top, align vertical center, and align at the bottom. So now I'm going to show you what tidy up means in Figma. So I create 6 different squares bracket so that I can show you how tidy up work. So as you can see, I purposely put it not in the same distance between each other so that I can use the tidy up. So when I use tidy up, you can see it will automatically distribute all the square bracket into equal distance with each other. So now let's talk about constraint. You can apply constraint along the both Y and X axis, and it gives you a basic framework for positioning object within a frame. So when it comes to a more complex design, we will need a more precise control and flexibility, and this ensures our design behave when resized. So for example, if I choose constraint left, it will maintain the object position relative to the left side of the frame, and if I choose constraint right, it will maintain the object position relative to the right side of the frame. So for example, here I choose center, so it will position center no matter how I scale my frame to. If I choose scale, my rectangle will scale together with the frame. So the bigger the frame, the bigger the rectangle as well. So the next part is the size, radius, and rounded corner. This is the x-axis position. This is the y. This is the width of the object, and this is the height of the object. You can adjust the angle and also how the rounded corner behave, how rounded the corner you want it to be. And by pressing this button, you can manually set each of the corners radius. So the next one is layer. Blend mode in layer allow you to define how two layer blends together, and this involves taking pixels from each other and calculation to them. You can darken, multiply, lighten, dodge, overlay, soft light, hard light, difference, and also occlusion. You can try it everything to see different result. So the next part is fill. This is where you can choose all the different colors. Besides color, you can also choose linear gradient, radial, angular, and diamond gradient. So you can try it out. The radial one will spread out like a circle, angular will spread out like a time, whether you want to do clockwise or anti-clockwise design. And diamond shape, it will basically shape like a diamond lah, the gradient. And the last one, you can put image from here. You can choose image from here, and also it will be placed inside a circle. So I'm going to choose back to solid color. And this one, you can choose the transparency of it. So from the image, you can also adjust different exposure, contrast, saturation, temperature, tint, highlight, and shadow. But however, I would prefer to use Photoshop or other image editing software such as Lightroom for more advanced image editing. So the next part I want to talk about is the stroke. A stroke is a collection of property which you can apply to a vector object, and you think stroke as a visual representation of vector path. You can use stroke to create lines and arrow, create outlines around shape like this, and add borders to frame and images. So I can choose different colors, different opacity, the stroke width, and also where the stroke is being positioned relative to the design. Next part I want to talk is the effect. Effects serve a number of purposes, from the aesthetic to functional. They can enable you to signify that an element is interactive, like making a button look clickable by giving it a rectangle or shadow. In Figma, you are able to apply 4 different effects to layer or object. This is an inner shadow, which you can apply a shadow on the inside of an object to make it look indented. You can choose the X and Y axis, the blur and the spread of the shadow as well. And the next one is drop shadow, which is a shadow outside of the object. And you can choose layer blur as well, which it will blurs out the layer. So I need to reduce the opacity so that the layer can be seen clearer. And the last one is background blur, which is pretty straightforward, which basically means it blurs out the background. So the next part will be vector drawing. So from here you can draw a lot of different things such as rectangle, arrow, line, ellipse, polygon, star, and also place images. So I can also write text. The Figma brings font from Google Font as well as on your own font that you have installed on your computer as well. So with font, you can choose different font type. So for example, here I want to find the SF Pro display font, and also I can choose the font size and also the font weight. I can use this button to adjust the vertical distance between line of text using the line height field. So to show it more clearer, I will add another line. So as you can see, both layers are clashing with each other, because the font line is set at 49.3%. So once I set it past 100%, it will be clear. So this one is adjust the vertical distance between paragraph and paragraph spacing. This button will adjust how the text overflow or wraps with the resizing behavior, and this adjusts the vertical alignment of the text within the text box. So for the next part, this is how you draw a vector in Figma. So with Figma, you can keep drawing the vector as you press the button. So you can keep on drawing until you're done. You can just press the done button on top or press the escape key on your keyboard. So after you save it, you can double click any point in order to edit the point. So for example, I press here, I can still edit the point here. So now I'm going to give it an effect, for example like inner shadow, to make it more visible for our next part, which is the component. So in Figma, you can have different components where you can make shape on an object and master component. So you can make copy of this object, duplicate it if you want, and if you edit the master component, it will automatically update all the copies of the master component. For example, like this, I copy it. So when I change the color of this master component, the instance will also be changed on the copied one. So in order to make it independent from the master component, you can use the detach instance to detach the component from the master component. Thus, when you do some changes to the master component, the detached component will not be affected by the master component. So now I'm going to show you how Boolean operation works on the shapes and the layer of Figma. So here, I'm going to put a few circles and give it different colors, and I'm going to copy to make 4 of them, as there is 4 different Boolean operations in Figma. So for the first one, I'm going to show you the union operation. As you can see, it will bind the entire 2 shapes together. So the second one is subtract. It will subtract up the top layer from the bottom layer. The third one is intersect. It will only create a Boolean group whose shape consists of the overlapping part. And the last one is exclude. It will only show you the sub-layer that do not overlap. So the next part is the prototyping tab. It allows you to access all the prototyping functionalities. So in order to demo it, So I'll duplicate this frame and make it another look so that I can show you the prototyping functionalities of Figma. So first is the Choose an Interaction tab. So you can choose an interaction to define the trigger, action, and destination for any interaction. So for example, I link the hi to the first frame, and you can choose whether you want to do it on tap, you want to navigate to which page, and the animation. There's a few animation, you can try it out. And the next one, you can customize the overlay, you can define overflow behavior as well as adjust the prototype setting. So next, I'm going to define the third shape from the top as a button so that when I press it, it will navigate me to the frame tool. So here, I can also choose the background color of the prototyping surface as well as the devices. So when I click the play button, it will allow me to prototype the design. So from here you can see, when I press the hi button, it will navigate back to the first frame, and when I press the third shape from the top, it will navigate back to the second frame. And the last thing I want to show you is the version history and the collaboration tool with Figma. So for version history, I will open up my previous project and press the home button there and choose the show version history. So from version history, you can track back all the changes you have made in a 30 minutes interval. So you can simply click the time you want to go back. Moreover, you can also add a duplicate version of your design and also name the version. Lastly, you can also add your current version of design to the history by adding it manually like this. So the next one is the collaboration, where you can add your friends or your colleague or your team members in so that you can do the design all together. You can either do it from here or you can do it from the design share sheet. So from the share sheet, you can easily share your project by inviting someone. You can also change their permission, invite them, and also copy the link and send it to them, and they'll be able to directly open up the file and edit them. So here's all the basic components of Figma. I hope you can enjoy it and use it wisely. Thank you.